Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Golly, Utah Mike, Scott Hummer, Little Lone Prepper, uh, always early. You guys are just fantastic. Thank you for being here. Utah Mike, thank you for your comment that you're looking forward to one of your favorite friends on YouTube from Salt Creek Living, John Grammer. Absolutely. We don't have Terry here tonight, but we do have John.
I can go get
And
her.
but John is the author of
Yeah,
four
we.
phenomenal. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we always enjoy Mike's comments on the videos. He's been a good supporter too.
Amen. I think he's from the same area basically as you are.
Yeah,
Uh,
Salt Lake area, I think.
yeah, yeah.
So
But anyhow, we've got and John's written 4 books now. We've done 3 of them already. We just did the 4th one tonight. And this is Drifters. It's book 4 in the America Overrun series. Gosh, there's a lot of good stuff. John, why don't we start off with a little bit of a bio about you? Tell us a little bit about you, because I know you're really into hunting. I know you do your own meat processing. You and Terry do in Salt Creek Living have a lot of good homesteading information you put out there. So I'm fairly sure that the people would like to know just a little bit about you. You know, what's
okay.
going on in your life where I know you're in Utah and that's about it.
Well, I was born and raised along the Wasatch Front in the Provo area. We came back about 2012, however long ago that was, because my business in Idaho wasn't doing well, and my dad was turning down work, so I came down here. And then my oldest son's really into Jeremiah Johnson type of stuff, and so in order to spend time with him and use that bond, I started learning about that. Trapping, I never really trapped. Trapping, hunting, because in Utah you have to go with an adult until you're 16. You can't hunt by yourself. So I would go with him, and like I shot my first deer at 41. I was never really into it. I just had a goal to be into whatever my kids are in. And then that's how I got into hunting. And we could never afford to get our deer processed. So I have a friend that was a butcher. He showed us how to do it, and that got us into that. We've always kind of had that prepper mindset, or not really prepper, but more of a homesteady thing. I didn't realize was the same thing. And so we've been kind of, Terry and I started a YouTube channel a couple years ago. We got more serious about it, and it's just kind of going. I've always wanted to write books, loved the genre, decided to write books in this genre. I kind of did it how I got started. I kind of did it as I told you so to my father, but he was already, when I told him I was going to be an author and write fiction, he told me it was too hard. He's an author, but he writes nonfiction. But instead of waiting and I believed him, instead of waiting I should have done it when he was alive, but I did it after he died. But every book I sign is with his pen that's monogrammed with his name on it. And so that's why I use a ballpoint pen to sign my books.
Wow. Okay. Well, we started off, John and I were talking a little bit before the show, and just the conversation we were having was so good and so full of insights on the book that I figured we'd continue on with that. And I told him I wanted to start with an anecdote, so you all can have a little bit of a laugh, but at the same time, I think it's a learning lesson that really is appropriate to this book. And so it's a story of a dove, and the dove flew up to Canada for the summer, and everybody started flying south, and he wanted to know, why does everybody fly south for the winter? And so he decided he was going to stay a little bit longer, and wasn't that bad. So he stayed a little bit longer, and finally said, well, it's getting too cold. I need to start flying south. So he started flying south, and he was up there in the high altitudes flying, and his wings froze. So he's all frozen over. So Terry's in the chat, it appears, John.
Oh.
Salt Creek Living just showed up and says, I'm here in chat. So it's got to be Terry. So anyhow, so this dove with frozen wings, now in a frozen body, just plummets into the earth. And it's just laying in this field about ready to die of freezing to death. and this cow comes along and poops on it. So now the poor bird's thinking, if it's bad enough that I'm going to die of freezing to death, now I'm going to die in a pile of cow poop. And how can life get any worse? And so all of a sudden it says, wait a minute, the poop is warm and I'm thawing out and my wings can move. And now all I need to do is get out of this poop and I can fly south. And so this cat comes along and starts gently taking all the cat poop or cow poop off of the bird. And as it gets all this poop off the bird says, oh, I'm free. My wings are thawed, I can fly. And the cat reaches down, grabs the bird, and eats it. So there's 3 morals to the story, and they're all 3 in this book. Number 1, and that is not everybody who poops on you is an enemy. Okay? Number 2, not everybody who gets you out of a poopy situation is a friend. And number 3, sometimes when you're up to your neck in poop, sing and be happy because it could get a lot worse. So think of those analogies as we talk about this book. And I was telling John, I've been doing an awful lot of study on groups of people and mental processes and everything else. In his book, in this book, we see all 5 types of the major groups of people. And I encourage you to make sure you read the book because you're going to find out how to differentiate among what I do with the book. Here it is. Got to read this, okay? Because you're going to find out how to differentiate the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them. And then John's going to share a secret about that I did not catch. And once he said it, I said, gosh, yeah, it's so obvious, it's pitiful. So first group is the tactical group. And so these are the guys, the ones who want to be, what do we call them, John?
Like the militia type? Is that what you're talking about?
Thank you. Yes, militia types. So, and that's kind of like Sheriff Marshall in the book, in his group. And then the second one is the community coalition, which is basically the people of Beaver. And so Sheriff Marshall kind of takes care of them a lot, in a bad sense. And but the people in Beaver kind of get together. So it's just a community. It's getting together. They have a wide variety of skills, knowledge, and ability, but they have come together to try to accomplish one thing, and that is survival. The third one is the family clan. And there is a scene in there where Malachi Crow basically attacks an outpost of this, what they call a young farm. And Malachi Crow makes a big mistake, let's put it that way. But anyhow, that ends up being the family clan that he attacks because the family is all together and they kind of counterattack. Then there's the Raider gangs, which is basically Malachi Crow. That's going to be your extremists as far as religion, some of your occult groups, people with who just think that they're going. It's those people who say, I don't have to prep. I have a whatever, and I'll just take whatever I need when it happens. Okay, so that's that Raider gang type mentality. And then finally, the heroes of the book are, the Idaho Falls track team. As they merge with Jack and the other group at the end of the book, are more like the adaptive bonding type of a group, where a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of different skills, knowledge, ability merge together for an effective community to prosper together, to live together, to teach each other, to train, to set standards and set expectations. So in this book, you've got all 5 of the major types of groups and groupings of people in a post-apocalyptic world. You got to read the book. You got to find out which one's best for you because they all have their advantages and disadvantages. Now, let's talk about that family clan, the Young family, John, and how that ties in with the first 3 books.
Okay. Before I do that, I got to make one correction on what you said. And it was Sheriff Smith and the militia group that got kicked out of Beaver that attacked the Young farms, not Malachi Crow. He never went that far north. So in the first book, Rick, the character Rick in all the books, Jeff, Jimmy, Bobby, all those guys, they're part of the Young family. And they're very rich and all that stuff. They're like the richest family in the state. Well, um, in the first book, he says he's late to get there. He gets there just in time to help him towards the end of the book. And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got held up. Jeff's farm was attacked and all this stuff." Well, if you pay attention, that farm in the book that gets the Young farms that gets attacked is Jeff's farm. And so I put in little things like that throughout the book that if you pay attention, you'll see this ties it. Oh, that's how that happened, or that's that. Then you'll be able to. So if you know that now, if you read it, you didn't catch it, go back and read book one and you'll start catching the stuff that's in there. There's like I think 3 or 4 of them in there that I kind of like Easter eggs that I did.
Okay.
But that was the big one. Was that?
So tell me how this fits in a timeline.
Okay, so book 4 chronologically, timeline-wise, is timeline book 1, and so it follows the day of the event. It follows Zeke and his perspective, his point of view, all the way up till about I don't know exactly, first quarter of book 2 of United, when Jack finds Zeke and his buddies at the roadblock, and then the last probably I don't know, couple of chapters, it's Zeke's point of view of him watching Jack and watching everyone, and then making his decision on whether these guys are a good group to hang with or not, if he can trust them. And so he watches them, and he watches Jack's interaction with some of the young girls and him teaching people, and he's not quick, he's violent when he has to be, but he's not mean. He's not a mean person. He's not a bad guy. And so he makes that judgment that when the time comes, he gets the invitation. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And so that's kind of that first 2 months after the event. So it picks up there, and then the rest of Zeke's story all the way through Exodus. And then like the last little bit, you get a little bit further after, in the winter time.
And how you develop the entire concept of trust is just unbelievable. There are so many good examples of how we need to, number one, be cautious, but also be open to trust. There's a couple of things here. Number one, we've got Aiden and
Levi.
Aiden and Levi leave the Malachi group, and then they come upon Zeke and his group. And so everything they've been told is the group that Aiden and Levi have left is the bad people of the entire thing. So how do you develop trust when you walk in with a negative reputation right off the bat? And there's a sense of distrust. So how you developed that trusting bond, I don't know if we can call it fully trusting bond yet, but at least the opportunities are there to establish a trusting bond. And there is a camaraderie of survival between the two. So how you developed that, I thought was very, very good, because it's, I trust you, but I will sleep with one eye open type of a deal.
Yeah, that was how it was that first night. And I think when they went back for the rest of the group, when they found out, like, hey, you guys, when they found out that they weren't the whole group, that they left the rest of their team, and they told them the whole story about, like, hey, we're part of this group we've been warning you about, and they sent them back to get those, to warn them and save them, and we saw how that turned out. I think bringing the rest of the group back gained a lot of trust between Zeke and Dale, but the rest of the group they always were kind of on the outside of that group, and that's why they volunteered to go hunting and do all this stuff, try to get that gain the trust of everyone else.
So as Dr. Covey would say, they're making deposits into the emotional bank account and
Yeah,
doing things that build up that trust.
but
Um,
they're doing it sincere. They're not trying to gain their trust to be trickery like you would think they were taught to do. They were trying to be sincere about it.
and then there's the trust with the Marshall, what do we call it? The Marshall homestead, the Marshall
Yeah, it was
farm.
the sheriff Marshall, the Marshall homestead.
Yeah, and that gets developed there, and trying to establish that trust. And of course, there's also underlying all of this. There's also trusting yourself. There's a little bit of self-doubt at times, and then they pursue and develop their own trust of themselves as they're going along. And I think that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of 16, 17-year-old kids, and so I had to look at it from an aspect of what does someone at that age, what they feel like they can do, what they know they can do. Being athletes is help them to push it a little bit further than your average, 16-year-old who doesn't know that if you think this is as far as I can go, push it a little further.
So they're kind of building their self-confidence out there. They're building
and that's kind of where
in a new arena.
Yeah, and so it was like, if I can do this, push it on the track, why can't I do it throughout, to survive or to do these other things? And there's a little hint that they kind of, being from Idaho Falls, it's safe to assume that they've had some farming experience and doing chores and doing hard things. I didn't come out and say it a lot, but there's just that kind of. They're from Idaho Falls. I mean, it's a small town.
Okay.
There's lots of farms around.
No, that they kind of mention that when they're talking when they get in with the group with Jack. There at the end, just before when they get their G9 or their Taurus G2s, and they get their training and everything else, they mention the fact that they are from the town from Idaho Falls, that they're farmers and everything else. So it's starting to get developed. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the ones that I thought was best was the differentiation between stealing and scavenging that happens when Zeke and the others put the cars together under the interstate and form a roadblock, and Jack comes upon them in an armored vehicle. That whole encounter, Zeke originally was against it because he said he thought it was stealing. And then he went and supported it. And then all of a sudden, when it turned against him, it's my mom told me not to do stuff like this. And a lot of soul searching there.
Yeah. And it was in United. It was kind of weird writing that scene because that scene's directly in United also. So I had to do it from Zeke's perspective instead of a narrator perspective.
Uh-huh.
But that it's also one of the things that a lot of books gloss over in the genre is they don't talk too much about the moral dilemma of stealing. When the event pops off and everyone's just shooting each other and grabbing stuff, and some of the books are really realistic about it, but some of them aren't too bad. And then it's like they don't have a conscience. It's like all of a sudden humans, they start turning into psychopaths, basically, where they don't feel bad or anything like that. Well, these kids were raised in a nice Christian home and they were taught what was right, and they're wrestling with surviving, and this is the only thing it also has to do with their immaturity of when they did this, because they think of this as the only way that they can survive. And so that's what that conversation is about, is Zeke saying, no, there's got to be another way. Well, no one else can see that. So he finally just gives in. But he knows it's bad. He knows it's going to go off bad. He's just hoping they don't die is what it is. Because they saw what happened when they came across a roadblock earlier in the book. And that's kind of what gave them the idea. But they were on the other end of that roadblock.
Right.
where they
Right.
got stuff stolen from them.
So, and at the end of the book, we've got Zeke and his buddies being given some Taurus G2s and being trained how to use them and everything else, and being integrated into the family, Jack's group. And there's some things there that are kind of neat in the fact that they're getting, number one, a shower, and getting all the first time they've had a shower since evidently since the event happened. And then you have to kind of say, okay, along with having a shower for the first time in maybe 3 months, what's the condition of their clothing? And so they're getting new clothes. And then remember that this is a track team. And so, and they went down for a track meet. So they're getting new boots as well, that their shoes are worn out. So in my mind, the way I see that, and I kind of confirmed it with John right before we got together, was if I remember how we as teenagers going to meets or whatever, how we dressed, how we acted, chances are they weren't ready for something like this to happen. It caught them totally unaware and totally unprepared. And so, one of the things that we need to do as we learn from this is what are some of the things that we can do even in what seem to be innocent situations like a track meet, where we have our bug out equipment with us, or our get home equipment, or simple things as taking walking shoes, not just your running shoes. But where do you, what kind of lessons would you like us to get from that interaction there, John?
Well, it's when I ran track in high school, and that's how we went to meets, is even in the wintertime when I ran indoor track. And I kind of based that track meet off of one, but different time of year. We would go to what's called Simplot Games, which is in Pocatello, Idaho. It's in the middle of this February. And even then, we would just wear our sweats, our trainers, and a sweatshirt. That's what we wore all weekend. We didn't bring any clothes, maybe change of underwear and a t-shirt or something. But that's what we always traveled with. So in my mind, I was thinking like that, but down in St. George and in more of a summer aspect of it. But bare minimum, a pair of shoes and a pair of pants, like long pants,
Yeah.
or and a pair of regular shoes, not running shoes. Running shoes wear out really fast if you're not just running in them. And the soles don't wear out as much. It's the other part of the shoe that falls apart. So I always buy Keen work boots, hiking boots. That's what I wear everywhere I go. And so I kind of, just even stuff like that. I mean, but like when we travel, when the kids were younger, we had a duffel bag with all the kids like winter clothes in. So their boots, their snow pants, their snow coats, and it was a big duffel bag. It would go in the car whether or not, even if there was no snow, if it was just cold. So like this time of year we're traveling, it'd get thrown in the back of the car or in the roof rack, and it was just always there in case we needed it, because we were thinking if the car breaks down, they can always put their snow clothes on to stay warm. And so that's just something we always did. But it's harder when you're in a charter bus, or you're on a school bus, or you're on a plane. So you have to figure that out for yourself as to what you're willing to take, what can you sacrifice, or what you need, if something like that happens. Because you can't be prepared for everything. You can't be scared that you're not taking the whole house with you every time you go either, because you're scared something's going to happen.
How can you be efficient in what you do? And so one of the key things is, a couple of key things: water and food. And John reminds us, and as they're out there looking for food, they come across some dog food, and at that point in your life, if you haven't eaten in a day or two, you're looking for calories, and dog food provides calories, whether you like it or not, and sometimes that's what you got to do. And I think that's the message you were trying to get across, John, was when you get desperate enough, almost anything will satisfy your need for caloric intake.
yeah, when you're that, and I was kind of, I a lot dog food is still edible for humans anyways. So if you're searching and you come across dog food, I mean, you get hungry enough, you'll eat it. But um, I also wanted to emphasize how that all the fruit trees that were around where they were staying and stuff, and the gardens that were just left when they left the town, they would search. You could forage in different places too, not just but eat what you can. Um, yeah, the dog food thing was just kind of a. I've heard about old people uh, having to eat dog food because they can't. It's either they can't afford food, and so they buy a bag of dog food. So I knew it was edible, whether it tastes good or not. I've heard that people actually do eat it.
I have
And
heard that it's actually more inspected than human food.
yeah, yeah, some of it is. And so that's kind of why I put that in there was you may think, if an event like this pops off and all the food's gone, but there's dog food on the shelf and it's between that and dying, I'll eat dog food all day long.
Well, and a couple other tips that you bring in there. I like the discussion around we can hunt for food. Well, can we hunt for food? Because we've only got about 40 rounds left among all of us. And every round that we use to shoot a deer for meat is one less round we have for self-defense. And so there's going to be that constant tug between using scarce resources for one thing or using them for another thing. And how do you weigh and balance how you use your precious resources? And so instead of hunting for food, they end up foraging and trapping, which I think is a good lesson here for those of you who don't know. I'm going to disagree with some of the major bug out bag and get home bag companies. A hook and line and a bobber is not going to do you any good. Okay. If you think you're going to hunt for food while you're out there bugging out or getting home or anything else, that's also impractical. I tell people, if you look at it realistically, let's say that you are a perfect shot and you can get a dove every time you pull the trigger on a Remington 870. Okay. And so I don't know about you, but it takes about at least 3, possibly 4 dove for a meal for me, for one meal. How many would it take? Huh?
Yeah, bare minimum. Yeah.
So there's 4 rounds right there. So if you got a family of 4, that's 16 rounds a day for one meal a day. Now here, dove season's 4 weeks in the spring and 4 weeks in the fall. That's it. So what are you going to do with the rest of it? And now if you take that 16 and multiply it times 56, that's how many rounds you've got to have just to feed your family for 4 weeks, one meal a day. So hunting is not going to be something that's going to be efficient for you. So snaring, trapping will be a lot more efficient there. If you have a yo-yo lure, yo-yo system, or a trout line system, or a jug system, or something like that, then a hook and sinker is going to be okay. But if you think you're going to sit on the side of the river and fish and get your food that way, you're going to end up starving to death. I can tell you that much.
And that's everyone else's plan too. But a good thing that I have to say, if you get a good air gun, 22 caliber air gun,
mm-hmm.
You can drop a rabbit, raccoon. You can drop a lot of small game with that, and they're quiet. And it's about $10 for 500 pellets. So there is that option as part of your preps too, but I wouldn't just rely on that. No.
Yeah, and 500 pellets weighs about the same as a box of ammunition.
Yeah. So, but it's not going to do you any good for protection. So you got to carry 2 rifles. But if you're not actually hiking out there, you're in a truck or in a camp, then an air rifle is a good option to have for that kind of stuff.
So if you could pick the top three things that you think somebody needs to pay attention and learn uh, as they go through this series and as we see these characters developed, what would you say are the top three lessons you want people to pay attention to and take heed and apply to their preparedness as they get into this?
One, you got to have the proper mindset to survive, and you have to understand and prepare yourself. People are going to die. You're going to have to do some unsavory things that goes against your everyday moral uh, set of values. But there's no such thing as self-sufficiency. You can be self-reliant, but self-sufficient is not it. You got to have a group, and that group's still got to have contacts to get, you can, even in a group, you can't completely rely on them to provide 100% of everything. That's the biggest thing that I try to put in there is I try to do the mindset of survival. And the other thing is look at everything with dual purpose. I'm a big guy that says, big guy on use the right tool for the job. But in a survival situation, you have to look at something and go like, what else can I use it for? Or how can this be useful? Because it's not useful right now. And so I look at everything when I'm looking at things that we just bought this carport for some storage in the garage or in the driveway so we can clean out the garage. And I'm looking at it going, that would be great to put in for our preps. It could be used as a mess hall, or if someone else needs shelter that's not there. Yes, it doesn't have a floor, but it would be useful for these other situations. And so I look at it as a win for my preps, not just because I needed some place to put stuff out of the weather while I'm cleaning out the garage. And so, but that also is so here's another, so besides the mindset, the skills, you need to learn, you actually use them, learn how to trap, learn how to do snares, learn how to, even if you can, to eliminate, depending on where you're at, what animals you have in your area and their patterns, their sign, learn about the animals in your area for that type of thing, and look up and learn where you can forage on
Absolutely.
public land. What kind of stuff is edible in your state that's not necessarily like what kind of bulbs and roots and things like that you can get that you wouldn't think of. One of the stories we hear growing up here in Utah is when the pioneers came, the reason the sago lily is our state flower is because that first winter they were all starving and they ended up eating the sago lily bulbs or something like that. I can't remember the full story, but that's, they ended up, this flower saved them because they ate the bulbs. And so there's a lot of stuff, and you have to learn what works in one area is not going to work in another area. Study your area or where you plan to be, and look up and develop those skills. Don't just buy stuff and stack it. Learn how to use it.
Yeah, and that brings up another point. There's a guy, he's in San Diego, and his name is Eric, and his YouTube channel is Epic Gardening. But Eric, 2 years ago, decided he wanted to do an experiment, and so he planted his entire backyard with wheat. So he grew an entire crop of wheat in his backyard of his suburban San Diego home. And then when it was all done, and he gathered all the wheat together and he threshed it and milled it and everything else, he had enough flour for 1.5 loaves of bread. So I think that there's a lot of people who think that they can buy a package of seeds and put a couple seeds in the ground in the backyard, and that's going to provide enough food for them to survive through a year or a month or anything else of apocalyptic world, or kind of don't have their expectations set right.
And plus it takes, every area is different on gardening. You need, like when we moved here, my wife's from the Pacific Northwest, you just kind of see it grows. But when we moved here, we live in a desert. Our soil's very alkaline. You have to learn how to do it. It took a couple of years of experimentation and things like that for us to actually get a crop. So thinking you're going to put seeds in the ground and get a crop, if you haven't done it in that area and you don't know how to do it, it may not happen. You can't rely on it.
Oh,
So
desert crops, strawberries and watermelons. Let me tell you.
yeah,
But well, that's great. So we've got basically two parallel stories happening. Books 1, 2, and 3 are sequential, and then book 4 timeline fits into book 1, moving into book 2, but it's parallel from a different
yes.
perspective. So we're getting both sides of what's going on in this event. You know, one thing that I still don't know, John, and maybe I've missed it, maybe you're keeping it from us, but what is the event?
It was a October 7th style attack on America's infrastructure. It says in the beginning of book 1
Okay.
that they came across millions of terrorists came across the border when the borders were
Okay.
open and
Yeah.
just kind of chilled, and then they just that's where I get killed on reviews because they think it's political. But I wanted to have. In fact, I'm doing a box set for book 1 through 3 right now, and I wrote a foreword about it, and it kind of. But that's kind of. I wanted to do something that was realistic to our time here when I wrote the book. Like, if
Uh,
America could fall, how could it fall? And that's when we were having 50,000, 30,000 people coming across the border every day. And I was like, this is how they're going to do it. And then
well,
they're
did
just
you
going to lie
see?
in wait. And then they're all going to do it. And then October 7th happened after the book was written. And
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, you know?
Well, you know, Joe Kent, who is the head of counterterrorism for DHS, was interviewed was called to Congress, and he gave a testimony to Congress. I think it was a week ago Monday, and he said that there are 15 to 18,000 known people in the U.S. with ties to terrorist organizations, and so they're trying to round those guys up.
And they're in every state. They're in every state.
In every state, absolutely.
Sarah Evans has it. Look, if you look up Sarah Evans, I think that's her name.
Sarah
That's the
Adams,
singer.
yeah.
Sarah Adams. Sarah Evans is the singer. Sarah Adams talks about it, and she knew about this before she left the agency.
Yeah,
So
and
it's been a known thing for quite a while.
so another good one is Saeed Khalid Mohammed from Command 11. He's a Pakistani intelligence group, and he is endorsing everything that Sarah is talking about. And then Colonel Scott, he wrote the book "Nobody's Coming to Save You," and he had a whole bunch of Taliban humint that he's endorsing that's going to happen. Then you've got I forget his name now. Another colonel who wrote The Attack, which is he fictionalized what everybody else is saying is going to happen, the three-phased attack. Yeah, so you were kind of ahead of the ball game there as far as your assessment.
I was just watching everything that was going on, and I had stopped watching Fox and everyone else, at the time, but I just kept stuff, and I didn't have Facebook. I had to get back into Facebook after I wrote the books because my editor said I needed to. But I was listening to Dan Bongino a lot, and I was just listening to what he was saying, and he didn't really go into a lot of that stuff, but he just kept saying the numbers that were coming across the border every day. And after I just had this feeling something's going to happen. And then I started writing the book. That's when I started writing the book, was because I was like, this is how it's going to happen. I got the storyline for my book. Now I just need to do everything else.
So here's a question from Little Lone Prepper. You kind of addressed this, but let's go ahead and let you answer this one for him. There's probably going to be a lot of pets left behind. If you come across them, would it be better to leave them to suffer and die from starvation or butcher them for food?
Well, it depends on the pet, I would say. If it's a dog or a cat, I'd want to keep the cats around to keep catching the mice and stuff, because you're going to have massive mice and rat problems if you don't have them around. And the dogs are most people will, they do it all the time. They just leave them out in the desert thinking they're better off to fend for themselves. But if before they go feral, I would have a pack of dogs. I mean, what else? If they're good dogs you can use for guard dogs, hunting dogs, they're going to let you know someone's coming before anyone else does. So, but if it's a pet goat or a pet rabbit, I'd probably eat it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's rabbits are just everywhere. I've got to be careful because they'll get in my backyard, and the dogs like rabbit poop, and so it's just, we could get rid of rabbits here forever. Feral pigs are our problem here. You don't even have to have a license in Texas to hunt them.
Yeah, we've got coyotes are open season. Eurasian doves are open season. Pigeons are open season. And jackrabbits they're hares, but jackrabbits are open season. Cottontails do have a season, so you have to know the difference. Problem here is we had a hemorrhagic fever come through a couple of years ago, and it wiped out a lot of the population. So they're pretty far down right now. In a couple of years, they'll be screaming. But in Utah, you can only eat you can only eat rabbits. This is the fable or the rule with them, that only eat rabbits in a month that ends in R, because they have so many parasites in the summertime that you just basically, we go out in June or July in high school, we go rabbit hunting, we just let them lie and then just feed them to the birds or whatever else, scavengers.
Well, we used rabbits as bait for coyotes because the dairy farmers were giving us $15 for a pair of coyote ears.
Yeah, there's actually a bounty on coyotes here. It's $50 per coyote. You got to take a piece of the jaw and a piece of the ear, and you can turn it into DNR, and you get $50 for each one. So there's people that see them on the side of the road and they go and get their thing. But my son, he traps. He's really good at dogs. He got good at dogs. One year he got 35 red fox, and I think it was 14 coyotes just from snares. All of them were from snares.
Wow.
Yeah, so he got really good. That was I think his last year that he trapped. He's not trapping right now just because his work is so busy.
So Little Lone Prepper says that she didn't know if she would feed a pack of dogs during SHTF. They might get hungry and eat her.
If they're domesticated, you don't have to worry about feeding them because they'll hunt themselves, and you just feed them your scraps. Like when you got a deer, they'll eat the scraps. So
they like the organs.
Yeah, you have to feed them for a little bit, gain their trust, let them gain yours, but they'll go out and hunt. He's dead now, but even I had a puggle, and he would go hunt rabbits, or not rabbits. He'd go hunt the mice in the rabbit barn and kill all the mice and eat them. And we fed him well. He was fat. He was huge. But so I wouldn't worry about it if you bonded with the dogs. You got to bond with them. You can't just pull in a Rottweiler and not have it bond with you, especially if it's starving.
My Chihuahua brought us a salamander yesterday. It's crazy. Gosh. So let me ask you, put yourself in the books. Which character would you want to be?
Well, JD is based off of me. So okay. That's me. Problem is I'm a lot more broken down than the character JD is. Like I can barely move half the time. I got really bad knees, arthritis really bad. So I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that he does. But that's kind of the personality wise and everything is I base JD off of me, and then Allison is off of Terry. And then Jack is my son Wilson, and then Anne is my daughter Kate. Those are the three that the four characters I base off of family members. And then Lucy is kind of, her personality is based off of my youngest, but
she's a wild one, huh?
Yeah, she's not as wild as Lucy's becoming, but yeah. She speaks
Yeah,
her mind. She's pretty independent. So
Lucy's definitely an independent soul. So, gosh. Well, without giving away too much, because we want people to buy the books to read them, and I definitely want you to read this book. This is I did it in 2 sittings, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's pretty short and it's pretty easy to read.
Yeah, and so my typical note taking, is has been greatly reduced because I got so engrossed in the book that I forgot to take notes. So you can that happens to me every once in a while, not very often, but I was just so engrossed in it that trying to figure out where it was going to go, and there was I never did really figure out where it was going, which is good because that leads towards a sequel that has me enticed and ready to read as soon as it comes out. But no, it's a pleasure to read, and now that you've pointed out what I missed as far as the tangents among the books, I'm going to be on the lookout for that further as we go forward.
Yeah, I did that. I wanted to see if anyone would pick that up. If if they would pick up that the young, because we'd only mentioned Rick's last name like once, I think. And if they would pick that up, that's the farm where he went and rescued his cousin from. And I kind of always wanted to tell that story, but I didn't really, and it was condensed. But I didn't know how to tell it in the book without it and have it fit. And
Right.
so I did it in this one, and there was a couple other things I can't remember now. It's been so long since I wrote it that that I did that also. And one of the things I also did, that the house that they end up staying in Payson, that Zeke stays in Payson. Did you catch whose house that was? That was actually JD's house he stayed in.
Oh, okay.
So I thought people would catch it when they had the empty bunker underneath the garage.
Oh, yeah.
Because they make that bunker joke. What's up with all these people in these bunkers everywhere?
Yeah, yeah.
So
The
I
rich
actually,
people with the bunkers.
yeah. So I did it. I did that as kind of like see if anyone would get it too, because
No, I
their house
didn't.
was the only one. Their house was the only one that that had a door on it, because they left
Uh,
their door unlocked because there was nothing there. So when they left the door unlocked. They talk about all the doors in the houses are busted open. Well, that was the only one that had a door on it, and so they stayed there. That's why they chose that house. And then the way I described the house was the same way I described the house in the first book.
okay.
So I try to do stuff like that, kind of like, you know how like TV shows or movies sequels will have like Easter eggs in it or something, and people will
Yeah,
never
yeah.
catch it. I kind of did that, and so, but
Well, you can't do that to a 73-year-old mind. Okay, it's been 3 or 4 months in between reading the different books.
well, my
So,
wife didn't even catch it, so don't feel bad. So yeah, but it's also been a couple of years since that book came out. I knew no one would get it. I knew no one would. But I wrote the book so where it could either be a standalone, and then so people didn't read book 1, 2, or 3, they could read it and then get into the series. They would probably pick up that stuff once they got into the series if they did it that way. And I also read it to see if people would say, oh, or I also wrote it this way to see if people would say, hey, I wonder if that's the same as, and they go back and look in the other book.
so
But
I had a conversation with Franklin Horton, and he said that he keeps track of all of his timelines and people, characters, and associations and everything on a spreadsheet. And sometimes it's color coded to show relationships and when they meet each other and everything else. And he says it's getting too complicated because of the number of series that he has going on that are all tangents to each other. Uh, it appears to me like you've got all this in your head and don't have to go to a spreadsheet yet. Is
I
that,
do have it all in my head right now. In fact, I actually asked him, how does he keep track of his characters? And he's like, I don't. He's like, I don't. He told me a bunch of stuff where he messed up.
Uh,
But because I was like, what app do you use? How do you do you keep track of this? Do you do a flow chart? What do you do? And he's like, I don't really. I just do it. He just writes them. So that's kind of funny that he's two different responses. He probably didn't want to explain it all to me because it would have
no,
been this
no,
long. Because
probably.
we talk over Messenger, so it'd be
Uh,
like this long, email and stuff. So it probably wouldn't. But I need to. I'm going to do a flow chart of it because there's several. I also need to do a flow chart of plot points that are connected too,
yeah.
so that I can. Because the book I'm writing now, it's called Outlaws. It's the first book in the America Insurgency series, which is a companion series. It's the same series, but it's like how Star Wars has the first trilogy, second, and then third. This would be like the middle trilogy. But because it's different characters, same thing, same event, same universe, but it's different. The main characters in it are characters from book 3 that aren't related to the
Okay.
Duncans or that clan. So I need to do that so that I can make sure things mesh without it contradicting. But yeah, that's what I need to do. But when I wrote, so Drifters is, like I said, it could be a standalone. I also wanted to write something that could appeal to teenagers. So I wanted to keep the main characters. That's why I chose Zeke. I always wanted to write his story anyways.
Mhm.
And I actually started writing it a little bit before I finished Exodus. And it just that's just the one. I was writing 3 books, and that's just the one that took off. And so, but I wanted to write something that would be kind of not really young adult ish, but teenagers can relate to. Um, there's a lot of questions in some of the post-apocalyptic book boards of every once in a while you'll get a question of what's a good young adult apocalyptic book or a book for teenagers. And so I wanted to keep it cleaner. I wanted to keep it uh, same subject, but I wanted to keep it more cleaner. That's why the kids don't talk necessarily like kids. They don't swear a lot like teenagers do typically. So I wanted to keep it a little cleaner but that's why anyway, that's kind of why I wrote it that way.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I want to personally thank you. I can't tell you how much this means to me, but I was talking with Craig Smith, Stephen C. Smith, who does the um, Stonemont series. So his group is based out of eastern Kansas, around Kansas City, Olathe, Lawrence, Kansas area, and but he and I were talking, and the use of profanity and gratuitous sex in a lot of these books is becoming unbelievable. And so I want to give you a personal thank you. I have not noticed any profanity or obscenity or anything else. They're pretty much good, wholesome books that I would not feel bad giving to one of my grandchildren to read, and with great storylines and great learning without having to do all the other gratuitous stuff that people feel they have to throw into books to get people to read. So thank you very,
I,
very much for keeping it a wholesome book. Let's put it that way.
I appreciate that. My goal is no sex, no drugs, and language to a minimum, and it's only in dialogue. I don't describe anything with language, well, bad language, because I think that's lazy writing when you do that. But the sex doesn't need to be there. You can hint at it without it being a graphic thing. And the drugs important to me. The drug use and stuff is important to me because one of my sons is dealing with addiction right now, and so I don't do it on a personal level because I can't write about it right now. I don't want to. I don't want to glorify that in any way, shape, or form. I don't drink or do drugs, so there's no drinking or anything in there. They might hint at it, but it's not.
Yeah.
None of the characters are wrapped up in it or do it a lot, and it's important to me to do that. And also, I don't want gratuitous violence. They're pretty violent. There's some There's some episodes that are a little graphic, but they're not so graphic that my goal is PG-13 at most.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you got to talk about some adult things and some of the stuff, but you got to do it tastefully. Um, but I also don't want it to be so preachy on the Christian aspect of things that I lose readers that way too. I want to keep it nice and neutral, family friendly, and that's my goal. So I'm glad that you noticed that and you appreciate that, because I it's hard sometimes. I have to go back and change some dialogue to keep it clean. You know.
No, no, it's greatly appreciated because there's uh, we were watching Stranger Things earlier this evening on Netflix, and I told my wife, I said they're just cursing way too much, just
Well,
especially the one curse word that I don't like because it's taking the Lord's name in vain. And I said, I just
there's that one and the F word I don't use at all.
yeah,
I think I've used it once in book one, and it was the only way I could get that point across that JD was making. Um, but those are the two words I won't use. I won't cross that. I don't like those. My wife doesn't like those words. I try not to use those words. I do all the time. Not, no, I don't take the Lord's name in vain, but the F word is a problem sometimes. But it's something that my wife doesn't like. So if I want my wife to read it, I want my kids to read it. I want them,
absolutely.
it's if I want it to be something that my kids or my nephew or my grandkids will read someday.
So let me ask you another question. We want to sell your books. And so where can they get your books, and can they get autographed copies of your books?
Yes, they can. Haven't set this up yet, but I am in the process of. I got a lot of things going on, trying to get where you can buy them directly from my website that are signed. I'm trying to figure out how to do that logistically. Anyone that wants a signed copy, they can direct message me. I will sign them, send them out, and then I don't charge a premium for it. I would just charge for the shipping, versus on Amazon you don't get you get shipping free usually. Uh, Amazon, they're all on Amazon. They're on Audible. Drifters will be ready here soon. He's doing it right now. I think the end of January it'll be ready on Audible. Um, Anytime anybody wants anything, I'm working on. I'm not there yet. I think fan base wise to have like a merch site and all that stuff, but I am
Uh,
working on that. It's just you got to have a lot of capital outlay to if you're doing it yourself, and
yeah.
I'm the type of person who want to control that. So, but anyone who wants to order a book for autograph book or signed book for anyone, I'll even do personalizations for it. They can just message me directly on Facebook, and I'll get it out to them. Or they can go to Amazon. Uh, the first three are on bnn.com, but I don't advertise that site. I don't advertise those. But if they don't want to buy on Amazon, they can go there. And it's on
Another
Kindle
way,
Unlimited too.
another way is to subscribe to Salt Creek Living here on YouTube.
Yep.
And if you subscribe to Salt Creek Living on YouTube, then there is a direct message capability right there on the YouTube channel where you could direct message them and probably get an autograph book there.
Yeah,
So
they can do that. You can comment on any of the videos and ask for it. Salt Creek Living is my YouTube. We go through its prepping. We call it practical prepping. First 90 days is what we focus on. That's our goal, is to be doing that and writing full time as soon as we can. So the more people that buy the books, the faster I become independent and can do that full time.
that
The
would be
biggest
wonderful.
the biggest thing besides purchasing the book that you can do to help an author, especially an independent author, is to go on and write a review, and on Amazon, on the Amazon listing. Don't just do a 3 or 4 or 5 star or whatever. And the way that Amazon looks at it, their algorithm is skewed from a human's algorithm. So, but people think book 3 is good, or 3 star is good. No, 3 star is 4 star is good. 5 star is I really liked it. I liked it. So it's kind of, we think of a 5 star as like, dude, you knocked it out of the park. they look at it as, it's good. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and anything under 4 stars, they won't promote. So you want to get to 100 reviews as fast as you can. And that's the best way that anyone can support me as a writer besides buying the book, is to actually go there and do a review. Whether you bought it on Audible, Kindle Unlimited, or Kindle, or whether you bought a hard copy. Now I am doing a 3-book series I'm putting together. I don't know when that's going to be released. It just depends on how sales go and things like that. But I am going to be doing, I've actually got some on order right now, a giveaway on our YouTube channel sometime soon, probably the next couple of months. I don't know when exactly, but I will be giving a signed copy of that away to a YouTube subscriber. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. So you want to go there, you want to subscribe and watch for that if you want a free copy sent to you.
Okay, so what we need to do for all of my followers here, number 1 is get the book and read it, and then number 2, leave a review on the Amazon bookstore, and just find the book, click on it, and then you can do a review. 5 stars, tell the reason why. I can probably write for a couple pages on why I would give it 5 stars. Then the next thing we want you to do is go to @SaltCreekLiving, and we got it right here on the screen for you. That's their YouTube channel. Subscribe to it, like it, subscribe to it, and follow them. John and Terry, I'm going to say that 80% of the time it's going to be a duo. It's going to be John and Terry giving you some secrets of homesteading, practical survival tips, I guess we could call it.
Yeah.
They just did the 12 days of Christmas, and they're going to do a bonus 13th day tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to do a 13th day of Christmas tomorrow. And the only thing that they bought that they didn't have on hand was today's, day 12's. And that was some kitchen shears that looked fairly expensive.
They weren't too bad. They're only like $30.
Oh, really?
So they weren't too bad. So yeah, that was the only thing we didn't have, because we were researching what to do, and I said shears. I was like, what? And then I looked them up. I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about. I want those. And ever since I bought them, we filmed that video like before Thanksgiving, because we wanted to get them all done. And ever since then, I've used it every meal that I've prepared. I use that almost. They're way more useful than you think.
Here's what I find. When I find something like that I love, I find reasons to use it. And then when I find more reasons to use it, I love it even more. So
yeah, that's exactly kind of what's been going on. And but yeah, so that's our focus is that, but we also want it to be, we also try to tweak some of the stuff and show people things that could be used as prepping items that you may not think are prepping items. So we'll do that in the video too. Here and there, we'll be like showing things, and you'll be like, I never thought of that. So it's really good. Some of the, it's really good. And all of our videos are usually like 10 minutes or less. They're not very long. They're not like hours like some of them are.
Well, I'm going to give you all my closing, and then I'm going to let John do the actual closing. So while I'm working on my closing, I'm going to let him come up with his. This is I'm throwing it into his lap, and I didn't warn him this was going to happen. So I'm letting him have some creative thought here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn to the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. If I can find it here. And the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace, especially in this time of Christmas. For those of you who don't know, I'm Roman Catholic. And so the 12 days of Christmas is the time between Jesus's birth and his presentation in the temple and for his circumcision. So we are in the 12 days to the Catholics. Today is the second day of Christmas because, well, actually it's the third, because we start our days at sundown just like the Jews. So, of course, Christmas Eve would be the first day of Christmas, and then Christmas night is the second day of Christmas, and then today would be the third day of Christmas. So we're on day 3 of the 12 days of Christmas as far as Catholics. But just do me a favor. I want you to read these books. I want you to understand that the key to survival is, number 1, being of the right mindset, and number 2, you can't do it alone. You've got to find a good group of people, and I think that's what the whole core of these books are, or how do you develop that trust, how do you establish trust, and how do you meet with each other. So remember that we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together. Continue to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. And with that, Mr. Grammer, I'll let you close it.
Well, first I want to thank you for having me. And I'll close it like we're starting to close all of our videos, which is planning isn't paranoia. Preparedness isn't paranoia. It's planning to, I can't remember what but planning to succeed, basically. If you don't plan, you fail. So planning is not paranoia, or prepping is not paranoia, because everyone thinks that every prepper is paranoia. So I'm trying to get that through everyone's head. Prepping is not paranoia. Prepping is planning to succeed.
Amen.
Or survive. You can put that last word, however, whatever your mantra is. Survive, thrive, whatever you want to do. So I'll leave them with that thought that, planning is not preparedness is not paranoia.
And we'll leave it at that, and we'll see everybody Monday evening as we continue on with Mr. Jones's book, 150 Survival Secrets. Take care, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.